Okay, I'm gonna try to make this pretty quick. But I got a Motorcraft 4300D spread bore here. This is a 715 version. I think the more common ones are like 650 CFM, somewhere around there, I think. So this is like the bigger performance one. They put this on the Boss 351 Mustangs and I think the some of the cop cars and things like that. 429 police interceptors and stuff. Anyways, a lot of guys talk smack about these carburetors, but they can perform really well. It's just like a quadrajet. You know, most guys don't like the quadrajet, but it's because they don't know how to make them work. And yeah, they can be frustrating, I'm sure. But, you know, for guys who have to run that for a certain racing class, or just if you're like me and you're determined to try to make it work, I've literally had this thing apart. I've torn it down 2 times, I think. I've had the top off countless times. So I can do it very quickly now. It's actually really easy. Guys think these carburetors are complicated, but I don't see why you would think that. Anyways, a couple of things on the top side here is it's been said by some rebuilders that the jet sizing makes no difference, but that's definitely not true from my experience. It does make a difference because you can read it very quickly on your plugs. So I've done a lot of trial and error with this. I've run different plugs, done some polls with it to try to find out what's going on. I'm running pretty lean right now. So I'm going to post this video and then post my my next video. I'll be going through some of the jets because I'm doing some other things on the car, trying to get it ready to race. Anyways, right in here, obviously you got your 2 jets, primary jets here. Your secondary jets, I don't know if that's the correct term because they're not really like your traditional removable jet. But anyways, as far as I know, there's nothing you can do with those. But I don't think that's typically the problem that guys have with these. It's typically like lower end, like off-idle boggins, etc. So anyways, one thing to check on is that you have the correct spring in here. And I would test the weight on this spring, but it's going to vary engine to engine depending on how much vacuum you're pulling, etc. Because that's how this functions. When you step on it, your vacuum falls off. On the top half of the carburetor, there's a spring and I think it's called the power piston. But that when the vacuum falls off, that will come down and it'll press on this spring. It'll open up your power jet, and then that'll allow more fuel to get into your boosters, be sucked in basically. But if you're just cruising, or certainly low speeds, but just cruising, I think this, and your vacuums kind of come back up a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, this will close. So it's mostly just for, traditional power applications. So mechanical secondaries with an air door, for any of you familiar with the quadrajets, it's the same style. And one thing to make sure, so I'm going to talk mostly about the accelerator pump. Make sure your check balls are correct. This one here, I do not know what the smaller one is supposed to do. I've tried to figure out where the passage goes. It seems like there might not even be a passage there. Regardless, I just left it there because there's probably a reason for it, and the car is working fine. But this guy here is very important because that's to shut off air getting back in, I think. Because when you step on it, there's a check ball here that shoots fuel up. But then as your accelerator pump comes back down, if this check ball is not working properly or getting stuck, it'll suck fuel back in to the passages. So that way, and then when you go to step on it again, you're probably just going to get air at first going through your discharge nozzles. So check that. You can, with your top on, just pop your lever, press your lever, and you should instantly see fuel. So I'll get to this more in a bit. But what I did here is I tried everything else and it still was not getting enough fuel. So I knocked out my jets, or not jets, the nozzles. So you can see here, there's one here, and you'll get 2 streams. So they're kind of like pressurized and narrow streams. My accelerator pump was working fantastic. I'm pretty sure what the problem was, I wasn't getting enough fuel. So instead of getting kind of like a misty high pressure stream now, I'm just more getting like a more of a dump of fuel, of lower pressurized fuel. And that seems to work. I mean, it's probably not atomizing as quickly, but whatever it's doing, the car seems to function a lot better with that. So that is something you can consider if you've tried everything else. And I'll just show you here. I'm gonna try to do this one-handed. So you got all the goodies. You can check on your float height. Make sure your floats are not cracked and absorbing fuel. These are the solid ones, so I don't think that's as much of a problem. But anyways, if you look here on your accelerator pump, if you check the function and you're getting solid shots, trying to think in relation to this where you'd be seeing it down in the bowl, a little farther down. But anyways, that's something to check on. This far right position, to the best of my knowledge, is supposed to be the rich position. I've heard both things. I've heard that left is rich, right is rich, but it seems like the consensus is that right is rich, and it makes the most sense because it kind of gives you the longest stroke. And middle is your standard position. So you can try adjusting that. If that doesn't work, you can try knocking out the nozzles. Now, obviously do that at your own risk, because make sure that your valves are closed, your butterflies are closed, because if this is on the engine, these could fall down. But you can see that center hole is what I was getting shot into there, and now I'm getting that outside diameter of fuel, if that makes sense. So what you can do is you can grab a flathead screwdriver, put it on the backside, and gently tap the back here, and it'll come out this way. And you can try removing those, and then you will get a lot bigger of a shot of fuel. So if you've tried everything else, that might be something to consider. That greatly, it's still a little bit lean sometimes off of idle, but it's probably as good as I could get it without, maybe even trying to drill them out larger. But anyways, it's good enough for what I need. I think that's about it. There's a few other things that maybe I'm forgetting. So, like I said, I've worked on this carburetor here a lot. So I feel like I know it pretty well inside out. I think I mentioned it, but stay tuned for my next video, because I'm going to increase my jetting size. I'm probably just going to drill them out if I can. Some jets I think you're not supposed to drill out, so I'm going to have to check on these ones and see if it's okay to do that. If you've tried everything and if you're running really rich with this carburetor, running rich and an off idle bog probably will have nothing to do with each other. Because your off idle bog, you could be low on, you could be not getting enough fuel, but it's possible that on your high end that you're getting too much fuel. So if you're still running rich, have an off idle bog, check your jet, your secondary jet, sorry, your power jet, because if that spring is too weak, it will just be staying open. So you can check your spring. You can find aftermarket assemblies for those. I used a click pen spring and just kind of played around with it until it seemed like it's really hard to explain, but basically that needs to be able to keep itself closed under normal circumstances, but it needs to be weaker than the top spring here. This guy here. So this, and this needs to be able to move freely. I think from the top end, there's an air passage where you can actually shoot some lubrication down in there. But anyways, this needs to move freely, because this needs to be sucked up by vacuum at idle. And then when you step on it and your vacuum falls off, this pops up. If it's right side up, this will come down. But so this, at idle, this vacuum, I forget where the vacuum hole is. It's one of these two, I think. There's a vacuum passage, so this should pull up, and then when you step on it, it'll fall off. and then that will push open that power jet. So that's how that works. And so make sure that that's functioning properly. If you're not sure, I suppose you might just want to buy the new assembly, because they, you know, theoretically whoever's selling that hopefully did the research and have the correct spring in there. But if it's like, if you're stepping on it, if it's running good otherwise, and you're getting like, you know, you step on it and it falls on its face, it might be the power jet. So if it's running too rich, your spring's probably too weak. This spring's probably too weak. Or the other spring that I just showed you on the lid is stuck or something. Alternatively, if it's just falling on its face, that power jet might not be opening, or any combination. So this is quite easy to take out and disassemble and check. Just careful with that spring, you don't want to go flying. But yeah, that's pretty easy to go over. I covered almost all of this in previous videos, so you can go back on my channel page, and if you're interested in watch all my videos on this carburetor, I should have the 4300 in the title somewhere, so that way you know that I actually, you can probably find out which videos I cover this carburetor in. Anyways, there's lots of other stuff I could dive into with this carburetor. Again, check my videos out if you want. I don't remember everything I've done on them, but I pretty much covered, amateurly at least, all the aspects of this carburetor. But that's the biggest complaint, is the accelerator pump. Now there's other things that could cause that to, cause an off-idle bog. Could be a timing issue. If you don't have enough timing, it could cause an off-idle bog, things like that. But anyways, check that accelerator pump and the power jet. Other than that, make sure your passages are all clean. Make sure your air door is opening. If you're only getting, if it's not really accelerating hard, your secondary air door could be blocked or not opening, things like that. So anyways, hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions or anything, put it in the comments. I might be able to answer, and stay tuned for my next video, where I will be trying to up my jet sizing a little bit. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.